Hello, my name is Letebele, your host for the Selalelo program. This program is sponsored by MORE, the movement in Omaha for racial equity. Today, I am hosting a very special, sensational woman. She'll introduce herself better.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Mirabella, for inviting me. I'm very honored to be here. It's always a great opportunity to have meaningful conversations around life and all of that, because that's what I specialize in. My name is Agatha Atlolang. I am a certified wellness coach. In particular, I train people in terms of personal training, physical fitness, as well as life coaching. So when you bring the two together, that's how we end up having a wellness coach. So my main thing is to help you, the individual, men, women, young people, to be the best version of themselves.
Thank you. Thank you. You know what? I knew I would never be able to grasp that like you would. I'm very happy to talk to you because I know that somebody who encourages and coaches people to live their best lives is right up our alley because it's like we are all failing at this thing called life right now. And just to start off, I'm interested in knowing what inspired you to become a life coach and how has this personal journey of yours shaped the kind of guidance that you offer individuals, particularly women?
This is how we approach certain things. We don't tell people what to do or how to live. What we do is we help them unearth themselves so that they can become their authentic self and live a life that is authentic and that's them. So that's what I do for a living. Life coaching, Mirabel, I'll tell you this. It's like psychology. You cannot sit here in front of people if you haven't done the journey and you haven't done the work. You are going to fail dismally at it. Now, going on to the inspiration. When I turned 36, I literally had a psychological meltdown. I had no idea that I was having it. I didn't know what was going on with me. At 12 years old, I was actually diagnosed with epilepsy, misdiagnosed actually with epilepsy. When I turned 21, I lost my mother at 22. Something went on there that I literally didn't deal with. It went all the way back into my subconscious mind. And as the psyche would have it, along the way, as you get older, anything that you don't address unearths itself from the personal unconscious, and then you start wiling out, if we could put it that way. So your psyche tells you, it's time to address. This is why we have midlife crisis. This is why we have the meltdown. That's why we have the existential crisis. Each and every one of us is going to experience this at some point in our lives. Either it be through divorce, losing a child, not being able to have a child, going through whatever loss, whatever existential crisis that you might be experiencing. 36, my time came, and here I was, my clients, I was forgetting my clients. And one of my clients and her husband said to me, Agatha, if you don't do something about this, you're going to lose your business. And I said, you know what, most definitely. I went off with them. They said to me, let's go and try a doctor in India. By the way, I had tried Botswana, I had tried South Africa. Nobody knew what was wrong with me. At that moment, I actually thought maybe it was a neurological disease. It's my epilepsy that's doing that to me. So I was very open. I've always been that kind of person, Mirabello. I'm not one of these Africans who are afraid of facing myself and getting help. And that's the big thing here. I think that I would love people to take away with them after this conversation, throughout this conversation. So there I was. I went to India, booked myself in with a neurologist. As I was chatting to my neurologist, he sat down and he said, "You know what? I'm gonna call a colleague of mine. She's a clinical psychologist. I need you to go and see her." Went there. I was introduced to a lady called Dr. Shah, very short little lady, Indian lady. She was sitting there with me, conducting a different tests on me, exams, having conversations, And Dr. Shah asked me a question. Who are you? I sat down and I was like, okay, I did say I'm a personal trainer. I did say I own a business. I did say blah, blah, blah. She said, no, 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 darling. I did not say what are you? I said, who are you? You know, and I literally looked at her and I just like, geez, nobody's ever asked me that before. And hence, that's how my journey started, because she said to me, you know, there's a lot going on in your life and you need to unpack these things. And this is where this is why your brain isn't functioning properly. This is why you're forgetting so much. There's a lot that needs to be unpacked in the subconscious mind. And I was so interested because I thought to myself, my goodness, so this thing called the mind can actually hinder you from so many things. It can actually be a barrier in your life. Went through my process with my clinical psychologist and then engaged the services of a life coach. Now, at that time, I was only a personal trainer. And I thought to myself, if I'm going through this, if I'm experiencing this, and if I'm learning all these amazing things about the mind, what about my fellow countrymen? What about other women? What about men? What about children? This thing, your psychology, it's actually a real thing. We need to really tend to our psyche. I looked fit, Mirapelo. I looked amazing. I was hot. But yeah, it wasn't working in here. And that's what we do. We tend to take care of the external while we forget the internal. And that sparked my interest into life coaching. I felt like psychology was going to take forever. I felt like, oh my goodness, I can't do 10 years of psychology. Let me go under psychology, which is life coaching. And then I enrolled in a course, and the rest is history. Here I am today. I am a certified wellness coach and a life coach.
That's an amazing journey, I must say. And now, you know, it makes me wonder, because we live in a very interesting society. People who don't know life in Botswana don't really know life. You know, we are almost at a crossroad of sorts. In fact, sometimes I even think we've already crossed the crossroad, if I can say, where we were basically a very traditional African society, and it's like suddenly we're neck deep in this modern Western infused life, and I think that might be a source of a lot of consternation in a lot of people's lives. So now I'm just wondering, because of this problem where we know that some people are still stuck in the traditional, some have moved on into the global world, what sort of core philosophy do you ascribe to when it comes to, I'd like us to talk about women more than the men, right? So what sort of things do you think should be at the center of this empowerment if women are to cross the threshold so that they can function and thrive in this new entity, you know, this society? I don't know what to call it.
I'm all for women empowerment, Mirapelo. I'll start there. But I also, as a life coach, my views are very, very different in that empowerment should never be viewed as only financial. I'm a typical example, and my story is the one that makes me be very grounded in what I'm saying. I grew up, my background, I was a spoiled little kid. I come from wealth. We come from a place where my mother and my father worked so hard to amass the wealth. We went to private schools, the whole shebang. So poverty is not the thing. I've always had access to money. But at the same time, there I was running my own business. And I had access to good nutrition. I had access to health because I was running my own business. So I had the money. But what makes you go off and then get a meltdown? So it's not a money issue. It's an internal issue. So as empowered as I was growing up, as empowered as I was with my business, the psyche was still saying, I'm behind your, fast forward, you got everything there, but here we're backwards. So for me, empowerment starts within. It's an inside job. That's how I always characterize it. We are not empowering women in the right way, in the sense that we're giving them all these externals, and rightfully, like you said, We're coming from this place where there's tradition, and then all of a sudden, here we are, modernity comes in, we've got these jobs, we're empowered, but our marriages are not working. We don't have control over our families. Our children are out here, bamodi drugsing. It's a mess. So you can see, there's something that is missing. Now, for me, as a coach and having gone on my own journey, one of the things that I got to appreciate was my cultural aspect, and that as human beings, we are three parts. There is the prehistoric you that is in your collective unconscious, as coined by psychoanalyst Carl Jung. There is the cultural you, your tribe, where you come from, and there's the modern day you. So these three things are all you, Mirapelo. You cannot decide when you are going to focus on the Mirapelo who lives in the US and that's it. Your cultural Mirapelo and your prehistoric Mirapelo is going to come for you, and they are going to come with such a wrath that you'll find yourself on the chair of a psychologist. So they will not be denied. In the same sphere, if you're going to focus on the prehistoric you, the cultural you, and forget the modern you is coming for you.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
How do you balance it?
You've got to you've got to integrate all these things together. This is where now you go on the journey of discovering who you are. And that's when I started the journey at 36. Because now more things were being unearthed. It's not just an issue of maybe you're working too hard, you're exhausting yourself. It's your mother's death. It's being in a relationship, one or two relationships that you didn't deal with. It's the little traumas that you experience, the heartaches, the little breakups with your friends as well. It's the lack of confidence. All these things are bubbling under, they're coming for you. And you're going to have to learn, who are you? Luckily for me, at that time, I still had my dad. So I started having conversations with my father around who we are as Bangwaketi. Who am I as a Botswana? Where do we come from? What is all the stuff? And then I started reading as well on the prehistoric side in terms of my instincts as a woman. Who am I as a woman? Am I just here to make babies? Am I here to fulfill something? What is it with me? What instincts do I have? Am I really an intuitive person, as they say? And then the modern side of me, how do I then balance this whole me with this environment? What is good for me? What is not good for me? You see, and that's what coaching does for you. That's what therapy does for you. We unearth you and help you to realize who is this Mirapelo? Because there's what your society tells you. Remember, Mirapelo, most of what we are doing as Botswana, we are relating from an ego and a persona perspective. We are not relating from an us, who I am, because there are parts of us that our society doesn't like. Let me give you an example. I'm a very talkative person, and you know this. I went viral. I went viral for my views because that's how I see things. And a lot of people, that's why they don't come out as who they are or say who they are or say what they think, because society does not accept it. And that then does what to the individual? You start to have what you call your shadow, your dark side. That's how we start getting depressed, because we're not allowed in the marriage to say what we need to say as the woman. You are not allowed to go on expeditions that help you to become more creative, and this is what sets your soul on fire. You're so focused on these kids, on this husband, and that's it. There's no you. You know what I mean? And all these things, this is where the anger comes, and this is why that's a retaliation, psychologically. And this is how feminism comes about, where now we are angry, but we've got a cause to be angry. You know what I'm saying? Because we've been dumbed down. You understand what I mean? Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes it comes with a lot of aggression, but I think for me, Feminism is something that we needed for men to realize we are here. It's even like with men. I mean, they have their own issues as well. But at the end of the day, as women, we were saying, can you stop chopping off parts of us? We are human beings who are supposed to come to a point of integration. And anything that you dumb down as the society, it comes for the society. As you can see today, we've opted out of so many things, you know. I mean, like some of us today, we're not married. We are focusing on career. We're focusing on this because we're like, if I'm going to focus on this and it's going to take away who I am, and then I'm going to be in a marriage that I don't like, tell me what's the point? Why am I raising kids I hate? Why am I going to be in with a man that I don't even feel anything for? Would I not rather be alone? So, you know, those questions are there. Those things are there for us as women. And really, that's where it is. It's in maintaining a balance between these three aspects of you as the individual, and then figuring out so that you come to integration and become authentic and become your true self as a woman.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah. Well, it needed to be said. It needed to be said. But based on what you just said, I'm just wondering what kind of values from, you know, the traditional Botswana culture do you think are essential to anybody, a woman especially, who's trying to reclaim themselves in madness in this world?
Yeah, exactly. You see, for me, this is what I've discovered on my own personal journey. There are things in my culture that are absolutely amazing, spot on. There are things that are there, we don't need to change. And then there are things that we need to rethink.
Yeah.
You know? And
get rid of. Some of them need to be gotten rid of.
Exactly. So we need to have a more sophisticated conversation around, does this really serve us? Does this still serve us? You understand? Instead of just coming in and removing everything.
Just give me two of those values that you think are worthy to be kept.
One of the things that I feel are really, really important is knowing who you are. Ghana people think this thing of going on a personal journey is a white thing. It's actually it goes across the board, different races, different people. We were taught, Setswana teaches you, so our tagline is umang. If you look at our language, it says ipatisitse, it says ikage, it says itote, it says itade. It's talking to you as a woman. So all these things are there, Merapelo. We've just decided not to go into those things. I'll give you an example. You know, I finally got to figure out what this did not mean that this man could go around sleeping around with each and every woman. It meant that for women who were single, whose husbands had died, let's say, for example, who were widowed or who were single, this man would assist these women. You understand? Not gallivant, go out there and go nilly-willy, do anything that he wants, go around
is that a real
around.
Is that a real
and because,
is that a real
yes, it's actually quite a thing. And I was so surprised. I'm telling you, I was so surprised.
Yeah.
And you're like, huh? How? You understand? So if we, how can most of these things, we are the culprits, not really the culture. You understand? And I think if we could give ourselves a little bit of time to explore and to really see what this means for ourselves, and that's another thing, you know. There's also a thing, one of the things that I love about our culture, I mean, I've traveled, you know, you've traveled. I've been to Europe, been to the States, you know what it is. Botswana are very community-based people, and that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful thing because where we cannot do for ourselves, our community steps in. And once we lose those values, we look at where we are right now. We've got no help. In this day and age, I remember my dad said to me, because I was talking about with him about this issue of single mothers. My dad said, in our time, if you got a girl pregnant, once you guys went to the Moraka, your uncle would have a nice jabane there. You would be following those cows. Your uncle would be at the back, whipping that back of yours for getting a girl pregnant or and you would get into so much trouble. If you look at today, we don't have those things. We don't have those. Great. That's why, to some extent, we're here. And men think they can just, have children with us and then go off and do whatever. Yes, we've got to assume some sort of responsibility, but you hear what I'm saying.
I have on this program in the past advanced an idea, a theory of some sort, that the problem, there are two major problems in a Botswana woman's setup. The one is the culture, and the other one would be the religion. Because these two institutions are the ones that are selling this idea that a woman is less than a man. Okay, so today, when a Botswana woman is trying to navigate the world, the first thing that they do is they find a church that resonates with whatever it is that they're looking for. Whether it's a prosperity church, whether it's a traditional church, they will go. And it doesn't matter what type of a church it is. It will always say a woman should be in the front. And obviously the culture says the same thing. And those are two very, and when you are looking to start a family as a Botswana woman, obviously you have to do things traditionally and culturally. So those two institutions are always at the back of your mind, so for you to consider every little thing that you do. So now I'm just wondering, how does a Botswana woman now maintain their identity, where they have done the work on themselves and they know who they are, while at the same time trying to be this global citizen? How can we do that?
How do you navigate that? That's a very, very good question. Luckily for me, I've been able to let's say oscillate between the two worlds. There was a point where I was really, really into church, and then there was a point where I was really sitting down with my dad trying to learn the culture. And like I said, Mirapelo, for me, it always goes back to you equipping yourself. I've been to prosperity churches, this word of faith, the churches, whatever they call them, One of the things that I know about women in the church, because they are so vulnerable, they don't give themselves time to actually read the Bible for themselves. If you go to Proverbs 31, this woman is literally a corporate woman. She's taking care of a business. She's making sure that, her things are in order. The home is in order. The kids are in order. Everything is sorted out, changed. And by the way, the same Bible says there are many beautiful and awesome women, but this is the woman. And this is a woman who's working, woman who's making her own money, a woman who's got a family, a woman who's got a husband who respects her. So it depends on which church you are going to. Now for me right now, I've taken time off, because when I read the Bible and then I hear what the little, because I think for me, I'm very concerned, because whenever you try to dumb down another person's way of being personhood, you always give rise to their shadow. Mirapelo, the dark side of the person will always come out. Because if you read the Bible for yourself, you'll see how many women were empowered in that book. There's a woman called Deborah. Deborah, literally, when her tribe had completely forgotten who they were, that was the woman who went to war. And she pushed the men to see who they were so that they could go and win the battle. So a woman was in the forefront. So I don't understand how women all of a sudden became these little creatures. When the very Bible says that,
I was going to say, I'll tell you.
Say it.
We can even bring it home to home, because there was a Botswana woman who was the chief Muhuruzi.
Yes.
Her father was the originator of the Tswana ethnicity. And people are they're trying to obliterate her from the record. Some are saying it was a male, but we know, I'm a Muhuruzi myself. I know that she was female.
Yes.
That by my elders when I was growing up. You understand? So you wonder, okay, now they'll say, no, 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 mosadi ga ana kgotla, or whatever. There can never be a woman chief. You see
Mm,
what's happening
mm,
even in Tamaga, where they are due
mm,
to install a female ruler, traditional ruler. And some of
yeah,
the men in the
yeah.
family, in the royal family, were against it because they want the position for
Mm,
themselves. You know what I'm saying? So
mhm,
you
mhm.
don't even have to take
Yeah,
it to the Bible. You can just take it into this very culture where, there was this
exactly.
woman. And actually, even
Mm,
then, okay,
mm,
that was problematic because it caused the tribe to split into two. That's how you ended up with Bakwena
uh-huh.
and Bahurutsi. But the
Yeah,
Muhutsi woman went on ruling. That's why even up to today,
yeah.
we have the Bahurutsi tribe. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know where the thing,
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't know where it comes from. Who came up with the idea that a woman can never reach?
And the thing is, Mirapelo, this is our fault in that we don't want to sit down and find out what's really going on. We want to be told and just regurgitate and regurgitate. And we don't care about our own identity. You understand? That's why for me, I've been on this journey ever since I was 36.
Mm.
I'm 44 now. And for me, the most important thing, Mirabello, is for me to understand who I am. I'm not going to be told by a man who I am. I'm not going to be told by another woman who I am. I'm going to be told through discovering me, understanding what is this thing called female? What is it? There's this quote that I love. Yeah, Carl Jung. Yeah, if you don't know who you are, the world is going to tell you who you
Yeah.
are. So the world will tell you you are a dog, and you'll become a dog. And the world will tell you you are a cat, and you'll become a cat.
I want to play the devil's advocate for a little bit. In this culture, we were so communal that everybody knew what everybody else was doing. Now, I don't
Mhm,
know how is that going to play out if now
mhm.
all individuals from the
People are stealing here. Yeah,
no, when the people are now supposed to figure out who they are outside the community or the communal, you know what I'm
mm,
saying? How's that going to
mm,
play out? Because
mm, mm,
if I discover that okay, the society says I must do this and this, but having looked into myself and seeing who I am and what I like, and that it is not it
mm.
is incongruent with everybody else, how's that gonna work out?
But you know what's funny? A
Mhm.
lot of what you are going to discover about yourself is actually congruent with it's a melana. It really goes with a lot of what society had put in place. Let me give you an example. A lot of us think finding ourselves means being unruly, and that's not what it is. I hear a lot of women saying, I have to be selfish, I have to be selfish. That's not you figuring yourself out. There's what you call individuation. Individuation is the process of figuring yourself out in a way that helps you to become a better human being and serving others better without neglecting you. I have not disrespected you. I have articulated myself in a way that I know is filling for me. Because when I'm not okay and I'm not happy, there's no way I'm going to be able to serve my community or to gel with my community. Now, the problem is we are so angry, we think figuring ourselves is no longer talking to my in laws. It means no longer doing. No, you can set a boundary and still be the person who has respect, but still move on. Because here's the thing, Mirape, you need to understand that this world, there's a spiritual realm around it. So there's your society, there's your community or whatever, and then there's also you. So it doesn't mean that if your community neglects you, there isn't a higher force looking out for you that will take you out of that community because it does not agree with you and you will not flourish elsewhere.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I see in you, actually. I see
Yeah,
you as a substitution in a good way
yeah,
of an institution that we have lost as a Botswana society. Bogwera and
yeah,
Bojale together.
yeah,
Bogwera and Bojale,
exactly.
yeah, Bogwera and Bojale were teaching young men and young women how to be separately and how they must, well, how, basically it was how you must serve the man as a woman. Um,
Yes, yes.
okay, it had some of its good features that I still that I value. But
Yeah.
that thing was brutally discontinued. People actually went to jail for trying to teach their children their culture, their ways. Okay.
Yeah.
And in the absence of
Yeah.
that, what have we
Yeah.
got? We have prescriptions coming in from the United Nations and all these other organizations, international organizations based on foreign values coming into our country. And you are supposed to be, and including even religion. I don't want to sound like I'm anti-religion, though I'm.
No, no, no. I get you.
Yeah, so,
But
yeah.
stop apologizing.
So
Stop
I'm not apologizing.
apologizing for it.
I
Say
just don't
so
want
it
to
is.
offend. Yeah, I just don't want to offend viewers out there.
Truth will always offend
Yeah,
everybody.
people are very touchy, man, in the world. So anyway, so, so I feel like you are exactly what we need in that sense, because there's
Yeah.
nobody else to tell us what to do. Right now, I can take an
Yeah.
example of the education system where the government
Mm.
is coming with all these prescriptions from the United Nations to say, don't do this to the children, don't scold your children, don't beat your children, whatever, don't spank it, whatever. We know some parents obviously can overdo it, but they are basically telling us how to do it, and our governments are enacting laws that support all these values that are at variance with our society. So I don't know, because I feel like you occupy that sweet spot where you can actually try to help people, to teach them
Yeah.
how to navigate life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How to navigate life. And that's what I love about life coaching. That for me, it helped me because Mirapelo, you need to understand that one of the reasons I ended up in that office with my clinical psychologist was because I had no idea how to navigate this thing. You understand?
Yeah.
Listen, mom and dad are great. They teach you the basics on how to relate with other people, okay?
Yeah.
They're very good at that. But here's the thing, your mom and your father are not going to live your life for you.
Yeah.
And they must also understand that there comes a point where you've got to navigate this thing on your own. Because I always say life is not a group event. So life coaches come in and step in. You know how Mirapelo, our way is that it starts off with mom. That's why your children are also close with their aunts, because there's a way that the aunt will relate with the kids, not like a mom. Remember, you're emotionally charged. These are your babies. How can you not be? You carried them for 9 months, for crying out loud. You have a connection with these children. You've seen them grow. It hurts you to see them when they deviate, and it's natural. But that's why you have the aunt, Auntie Agatha, who's a little bit cooler and who's not emotionally attached, but can get the message through. And this is where the community came in. Now, when I started deciding I'm going to live my own life, and then you decide you're going to be jealous while I'm trying to help you with the kids because you feel like I'm trying to be a mother to your children. And I'm like, this is where we start having a problem. So life coaching comes in and says, you've taken the institutions, Saruna, but you've thrown them away. And here's the thing, Mirapelo, that people don't understand. And I got such an appreciation for it through coaching. Any institution that you take out that has been there for years and years, if you do not supplement it with something, other gods are coming in, and those gods are going to destroy you. But we can change the systems because we need this. Right now, here we are. Marriage rates have declined, divorces up the roof. We've got fatherless children. We've got an HIV crisis because men and women are not taught who they are, how they should be in relationship with one another, what their legacy means, not only for them, for their society, and for their children. And all these things that were there, they're not there anymore. These children are on drugs now. You end up also with an issue of pregnancy, alcoholism, drugs, all sorts of things. So it's a problem. I'm saddened for our people.
To the extent that you are able to, what are some of the common obstacles that women bring to your coaching sessions, and how do you help them? overcome them?
Okay, there are a couple of things. One, a lot of women haven't really connected with their true selves they haven't discovered what they don't like either. And it seems as if a lot of women have grown up in an environment, go to school, get a bachelor's degree, whatever, get a job, and your life will be perfect. And lo and behold, because that's not true, lo and behold, women come to a stage after they've had that drive and it's been great. Once they hit their 40s, they're wondering, is this it? They start to question themselves. At that age, some of the kids have moved out already. You're stuck with the husband and you are really, really questioning yourself, is this really my life? And that's where a lot of them have an existential crisis. And that's when they come to me and say, something's not right with me. The second thing is, and I just think this is across the board, people don't understand autonomy. Africans don't understand autonomy. There's always this thing of wanting to control the partner. For me, my philosophy is this, Merape. I don't get to tell you how to be. I get to voice out what I don't like about your behavior. Once, twice, 3 times. And if there's no change, I get to sit down, look at you, and make a decision. Am I going to live with this? Am I living with these shenanigans? Or am I stepping out? I don't get to hit you on the head with a Bible. I don't get to shout at you that you're not doing what I want, you're not behaving in a way. Personal responsibility. That's another thing. We don't have that, because if I do that, that is causing me to come to a higher standard. You see, it's no longer blaming my partner and saying my partner doesn't want to change. So I want to absolve myself of decision making. And this is where the problem is with women. And I really push them to say, make a decision. Stop sitting there and shouting at your kids and shouting at your husband and shouting at your colleagues. Make a decision. Make an executive decision. That's called leadership. That's what leadership is. You want a leadership position, but you can't do a basic thing like sit down and ask yourself, in this environment that I'm coexisting with these people, how am I going to manage that? Because that's the first place that God teaches you leadership, your home. So how are you going to get these men who can't even manage their homes to go off and be president? Those are the 3 main things that I see. It all boils down to that.
My next question is, do you think that a Botswana woman today is adversarial towards men? Do you think that Botswana women have achieved equality with the men?
Men and women are very different. We are failing to coexist because I don't take time as a woman to understand the male psyche. The man doesn't take time to understand the female psyche. And as such, we're always going to have this riff-raff that's going to make us feel like there's no equality. It's going to make the men feel like they're not being respected. The biggest problem is you don't understand me, I don't understand you. And for as long as if that is going to exist and we're going to allow that to exist, we are going to keep talking in terms of zero equality. My philosophy is we are equal but equally different. There are things that I'm so good at as a woman, a man can never contest me on those things. There are things that this man is so good at as a woman, I can never, because I'm not built like that. I can never contest them. We need to get away from these gender wars. We need to go into our individual spaces as men and women. One of the things I really admire the most about the Islamic community, and this is something that Africans can really learn from, and I think Africans know this, but because of religion, we moved away from this. At the mosque, the men are the ones who go to the mosque. Men and women are separated. Why? Because there are conversations that men need to have with themselves, be reprimanded, be disciplined, be taught within those spaces without us being there. There are places where women need their space to be disciplined, be reprimanded, be taught, be heard, without men telling us what to do. Same with the men. And then there's a time where we come together and then we have our conversations and say, This is how we're going to build the family. This is how we're going to raise the children. This is how we're going to build the society and the community. Now, if we are not willing to have those conversations, Merapero, and here I am saying men are trash, and here I am as a man saying women just love money, we're never going to solve anything. I think we've, you know what I think?
Yeah.
And, I'm sorry if this comes across as if, I just feel I'm so over that nonsense. I'm too old for that. I'm 6 years away from 50. Young people, my message to them cannot be men are a certain way, or you are some weak person, or all you need to be doing is making babies the whole day. I have come to my own. I know exactly what I want. I know how I'm supposed to be in relationship with a man. I know my boundaries. I know how I'm supposed to show up, not only for myself, for the opposite gender, and for your children, not as an aunt.
While on that note, so what advice would you give to all these young girls who are growing up, especially in urban Botswana?
I think this conversation has to be for both the young girls and their parents. Because what I've realized is a lot of us, 1980, from 1970 to 1980, we decided somehow to just abscond from parenting. We are part of the social media. We are on TikTok. We're doing all sorts of things. And I'm just like, okay, so if I'm on TikTok here doing this, and my daughter, she's busy, showing, and I'm also 46, busy. Like, who's the parent here? Yeah. The thing is, to the parents, having children doesn't mean that you should lose your youthfulness, but it also means that you shouldn't forget that you are a parent and that you come with a certain level of awareness and consciousness that your daughter doesn't have. And you need to impart the knowledge to the child, because there are things that child doesn't know. To the young girls, you don't know anything. You don't know anything. You don't know anything. Everything that you know, that you think you know, we've been through it. There's nothing new under the sun. That breakup, we know it. That baby out of wedlock, we know it. That being taken advantage of, we know it. So learn to sit under the bosom of your mommy, your aunties, and listen and learn. And take that which will help you, my child, to become a better woman in society, so that you don't become that girl who's got 5 kids with 5 different guys. We don't want that for you. We want you to be a wholesome mom. We want you to be in an amazing environment, loving the environment, loving your marriage, loving your relationship, loving being single if that's what you want to be. You know what I mean? But being centered, no anger. We've got too much anger because we don't listen to what mom said. We're not listening to our aunties. And then life shows us dust. And then we want to turn around and say, they didn't teach me.
I think young people are caught up in living their best lives instead of building themselves up. They want to skip.
And that's not
the reason why I invited you on this show was for you to set things in perspective for me and my viewers pertaining to the state of a Motswana woman. It is very, very sad to see what's happening in this country. And keep on keeping on, because we need people like you. Because in our culture, actually, you were saying that I'm kind of softer. It's just that I wanted you to be in the forefront of this. I say I'm a bit rough, and people actually, they find me so...
They feel like you're combative.
They feel that
what's
way
the
about
word? They like to say you're controversial.
Yeah, or confrontational,
Confrontational, yes.
But we need to be, because you see, if Agatha, you can, whoever, whether it's me or the next lady or man, you can improve yourself in any way. You can self-actualize. You can do all these things. But if you are just by yourself, you're not really going to, you're going to be a nice person, and everybody's going to
Yeah.
love you. But
Yeah.
you see, we need the whole
Yeah.
society to learn the same things, to practice the same
Yeah.
culture, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have the same values. That's where we're getting it wrong.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
if you could, I know I've taken up much of your time, but if you could directly speak to Botswana women in just two
Mm-hmm.
sentences, what would you tell them?
Hey, it would never be two sentences, Mirabello. You know that.
Okay, go for it.
You know, I, I
Yeah.
would I would say this to Botswana women, that theirs is not to be like men. That's not why they're here. Theirs is not to conquer, to toy, to do that. No, 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 no. There's a certain level of power that a woman has been given. If you look at the days of old, there were women who brought down, who made kings fall.
Mm-hmm.
There was an aura about those women. There were women who they had that power. That's the power I'm looking for. That's the feminism. You understand? That's why we say behind every great man, there's a
Woman.
where do you think this man is getting this wisdom from?
Mm-hmm.
So the woman is the one building the boy, building the girl, putting the foundation. Now, when she absconds from that, we have anarchy. The journey starts with us. That's why the men don't stress us out with kids. That's why I'm the boss when I'm with my kids. That man says nothing, nothing. Have you ever said to us? And women, if they don't understand who they are, what their power is, what their role is in this whole global thing here and this world we are in here, we're going to end up with nations like this. Women are so powerful. They have lost their power. They are too busy chasing the male power. And at the same time, they're crashing out. You see, because if we are really honest, because I work an honest job where people can be honest with me behind closed doors. They say what they say on their podiums at high teas. And there's what they say when they're with me, when we are having real conversation. Women are tired. That's why women are functioning alcoholics. We are tired. We are putting up this brave face, brave face. And we're not saying that women shouldn't be, but there should be a certain environment that exists when we do those things so that we actually enjoy what we're doing and we're able to guide everyone and lead something as well as lead in our homes. So my thing, Hella, to women is well-being is where your power is. Authenticity is where your power is. Self-care is where your power is. That's it. Figure out these things without running and rallying behind other women. Life is not a group event. It is your life. You come here alone, you are going to die alone, you're going to have a legacy alone. So women must adopt that thing. Hey, know who we are in our individual spaces and then come out as a community and build what we need to build after discovering all our talents and all our gifts. That way we won't even clash with one another, because in as much as women talk about women for women, women hate each other. They can't even work together. As women, we are so powerful that when we don't work together, the whole society crumbles, as it's crumbling right now. Men don't have solutions to it. Social ills are not problems that can be solved by men.
Yeah.
Those are feminine issues. Yeah.
I truly appreciate you. And thank you so very much for talking to me. Botswana women are in a mess. Sometimes I wonder if they know it or they don't see it or they choose to ignore it.
Yeah.
So having these conversations help us deal with what's happening to the women. We need a collective action of some sort to try to bring the society together. I think we should step in and play our role. So thank you so very much. You can say your last words.
Thank you so much, Mirabello, for inviting me. And I've really, really enjoyed having this conversation with you. We spoke before. That was even more brilliant. And I loved this as well. You are just an amazing human being. And thank you so much for coming up with this and initiating this. And all the best in your endeavors moving forward.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.